We will call this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. Got refueled here. If everybody would silence their cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And today, before public comment, we are going to begin with a couple of introductions of new staff. And I would begin with Tina.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am excited to introduce Annalee to you. She has joined the Planning and Zoning Department as a Land Use Planner 2, and I'll let her give you a little background.
Yeah, hello there. I worked for the last 3 years in Georgia in Forsyth County in their planning and zoning departments. I primarily did kind of like policy work and stuff like that, but I also just really love doing like zoning and looking at different types of zoning permits. And before working in Forsyth County, I worked for Waseca County. So it's fun to be back working for another rural county in southern Minnesota.
Yeah, my ties.
Oh yeah, and I do have some family here in Minnesota too, and friends.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to Waseca County, Emily. We're so glad you're here, and we've needed help. So we're looking forward to the work that you're going to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Sarah.
Good morning. I'm a bit delayed in introducing Erin Schmidt. She's been here since January. Helping us. I know, sorry. Timing is everything, right? We've been very pleased to have her. She's nearing her 6 months with us. She is our administrative support clerk and helps with all sorts of things in our area. Very happy to have her come aboard.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Erin.
I am a Casson native. I've spent the last 5-ish years being a stay-at-home mom after transplanting from there to Owatonna. That's about the extent of me. I will go by.
Are we keeping you interested and engaged?
I was telling Sarah that it's been very humbling working for the county. I know what I'm getting myself into, and there's a lot more to it than one would think.
Well, we're glad we're challenging you.
Absolutely.
And thank you again for filling a hole in our team. We appreciate you being on the team. All right. Wonderful to meet you both. Next, we will open up for public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Online, anybody?
Not willing to speak.
Okay, one more time, anyone for public comment? Not, we will close public comment and we will go on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, administration? Commissioner Milbrook.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Krause.
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Christopherson.
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Hargett.
No, Madam Chair.
County Attorney Hargett. If there are no changes, I would look for a motion for the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second by Krause.
All right, motion by Commissioner Milbrook, second by Commissioner Krause. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Put same sign. All right, then we have an approved agenda and we have a couple of presentations, and we're going to begin with our school district partners here. And we're going to talk about the Permanent School Fund Constitutional Amendment, JWP, New Richland, Heartland, Ellendale, Geneva, and Waseca are here. And we're so glad to have you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Wendy Dyker. I'm the business manager at Janesville, Waldorf, Pemberton Public Schools. And Andrew Adams from Waseca and Howard Christopherson from Nerhague, New Richland, Heartland, Ellendale, Geneva. We're here. We just wanted to share some information about the legislation and the Permanent School Fund in case you hadn't heard about it, and to just give some background and what this constitutional amendment proposal entails. So I wasn't aware of this permanent school fund until I started working at a school. Maybe some of you already know about it, but we wanted to be sure that as you're out about talking to your constituents, you're helping to spread the word and make sure the voters see this question on the ballot in November and know what they're voting about. So a little background on the permanent school fund. In 1858, when the state constitution was written, there were 2 parcels in every township that were set aside for permanent school funding to perpetuate and support public school funding forever. So those parcels were set aside, and the revenue generated from those parcels would go into a trust and a financial trust. And over the 170-ish years, those parcels have been swapped around or sold off. And the Minnesota DNR manages all of these parcels. And today, as those changes have happened over the years, there are about 2.1 million parcels, and they're primarily in northern Minnesota. And they generate revenue from mining, natural resource harvesting, timber, land leases, etc. So the DNR sends all that revenue into the trust fund for the permanent school fund. And the state investment board then manages that trust fund. They also manage trusts for like our retirement, the public employees retirement fund and the teachers retirement fund. They manage lots of different funds. And so they have grown this trust, and every year, as directed in the Constitution, distribute money to the Minnesota Department of Education to allocate to the schools. Today, the fund balance is valued at about $2.3 billion. So they have done a very good job at keeping this fund valuable over the years that they've been taking care of it. So then the Minnesota Department of Education every year get this chunk of money, and they look at how many students are enrolled in public schools in Minnesota and come up with a per pupil dollar amount to give to the schools. And so each district then receives an allocation based on their enrollment. So in recent years, Minnesota Department of Education has handed out $58 million-ish to the school districts. So 2 issues have come up in recent years. This fund, as I said, is about $2.3 billion right now. And in the last 10 to 15 years, that fund has grown substantially. The Minnesota DNR has been doing a great job at gathering revenue, and the State Board of Investment has been doing a great job at growing those funds. So the growth of the fund has far outpaced the distributions that have been going to the schools. The other issue is that the distributions can kind of vary from year to year, depending on how much dividends and earnings have been made to the trust. You know, so the school districts don't always know how much we're going to get in a given year. So in May 2024, the Minnesota legislature created a task force. There's a group of investment experts, finance experts at schools. And so this group of people got together to examine, as the task force report says, to examine the historical returns on this permanent school fund endowment and evaluate and recommend potential changes to distribute those earnings. So the next slide here shows part of the executive summary in that report. The task force came up with these 3 recommendations. This is all of the calculations and distributions and everything are all codified in the Constitution. So first of all, they wanted to say, let's amend the Constitution to pull some of those specifics out of the Constitution and give the legislation a little more flexibility to follow some best practices. You know, in the 170 years that this trust has been around, there's some language and some, you know, funding vehicles and things like that that didn't exist. So that's kind of where we're kind of stuck 170 years ago. So the first recommendation is to, you know, amend the Constitution. They wanted to shift the distribution calculation, allow for future flexibility, and they want to propose a distribution policy that recalculates, rather than looking at the dividends and earnings in 1 year to hand to the schools. Let's take a look at a 3-year average value of the trust and take 4.5% of that value and give that to the schools in a certain year. So it would level out the dollar amount, the fluctuation that could happen, depending on how the markets are performing and things like that. So as the task force recognized, these changes would modernize the management of the fund. It would align Minnesota with some best practices and better serve today's students and students into the future. So on the bottom of this slide is that slide was a link there to the full task force report. It's an 86-page report. If you really want to have some beachside reading and see all the studies they did. They looked at historical returns on the fund, projected out future returns on the fund, and how different calculations could work. They looked at other states with similar funds and how they manage them. So there's 86 pages of information that was put together to support this amendment. So the ballot question that you'll see in November is a constitutional amendment proposal, and it's asking that the amendment be made to increase funding going to the school districts from the permanent school fund. And this supports all of the public school districts in Minnesota, and it will not raise individual income or property taxes effective July 1. So you'll see that yes, no question on the ballot. Just like every other yes, no question on a ballot, it needs a majority of yes votes. So a lot of voters will skip a yes, no question on a ballot, and that really is a no vote. But we need a majority of yeses of all the voters who showed up that day. So, if anybody can help us get the word out that this question is there, there's information about it, and then to make their decision to mark the yes or mark the no. That is kind of what we're hoping for, is that we can get some information out about that question. So local schools, Nurhague, Waseca, and JWP, we call Waseca County our home county. We maybe have a little bit of district land in other counties, but Waseca is our home. So we just wanted to kind of show you what the local impact is on this trust fund. So the third column there, that final ADM column, ADM stands for Adjusted Daily Membership. And that's just the way that NDE counts how many students we're instructing on a given day, basically. So with some known information, if we kind of did a what if, we looked at our students that we had in 23-24, and that final number of what the state's counting for us. Then in fiscal 25, we received an endowment money based on those dollars from the year prior. So you can see that Waseca received, 113,000, Nurhague received about 52,000, and Janesville about 42,000 based on our number of students that we had in 23-24. So if we take those same conditions and apply this formula that the task force is proposing, you can see how much the more money we would be getting at the school districts. It's about 40% more that we could have received in 25. So that's just kind of an illustration to show how this is, doesn't affect any taxes, doesn't change anything from anybody's paychecks or income or property taxes. It's just a recalculation of money that's already sitting there for the schools to use. So, we just have a few bullet points, kind of a mini state of the district finances as we kind of look at this. In Waseca's seeing some stable enrollment, so they'll likely see a nice boost. Nurhague and JWP, we're kind of seeing our enrollment trending down. So as our numbers go down, if the per pupil amount goes up, it can kind of help soften that decline in our revenue. And Waseca and Nurhague don't have operating levies in place, so there's no on top of tax happening at their districts. JWP does have an operating levy, but we're still kind of one of the lowest property tax rates in the area. So for all three of our districts, the additional revenue would just support our programming, support the revenue that we get from the state, and would really not have any impact on taxpayers if this were to pass. So this slide just has some links, kind of less information down to more information, depending on how far down you want to go the rabbit trail. The permanent school fund presentation is just a slide deck that the task force presented to the Minnesota School Boards Association. They're an amazing organization that supports and lobbies and advocates and trains school boards and school officials. So the task force presented to MSBA. So there's kind of a summary of that 86-page report. Then the next link is that 86-page report, if you want to read that. And then the Minnesota School Boards Association has several other news stories and videos and those two links as well. And then if you really want to get nerdy about the land, you can click on the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources School Land Trust. It has information about their parcels and how they manage that land. So if you have any questions, your constituents have any questions, people are talking about it. I think I can speak for all three of us. Anybody can contact us at our offices. We would be very glad to talk about this, share information. And we very much appreciate you taking time to hear us today.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So does this have to come to the vote of the people because it's a constitutional amendment?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the reason it's coming to.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Constitution is very specific and prescribed on how the trust fund is managed and how those distributions happen.
Good questions?
You take 2.1 billion, wasn't it?
2.3.
$2.3 billion.
1 at 4% is 84 million. And they're only spending 58 million right now.
Right, right.
So even without any additional revenue, you're not spending interest.
Exactly, exactly.
This is interesting in light of some of the other endowment funds that I know in ancillary ways from different organizations that have been doing some of the same work as far as how do you analyze this so that you preserve the fund and continue to grow the fund,
Right.
but also that the distribution ends up to be more even, so you're not doing it was a great year in markets.
Right, right.
Let's throw a party. Oh, it was a bad year in the markets. Sorry. And just make that more level and still not endanger the encumbered funds.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Other questions or comments for Wendy? We appreciate you all being here so much today. And the lesson, the education, we appreciate that.
That's what we do.
Absolutely. You're expert. I can see from the PowerPoint, you're experts at this. And thanks for helping us be more fully informed about this, because we talk to a lot of people and we want to know what's going on. And they ask us about elections a lot.
I bet.
So,
And especially this year, I'm sure. So, yes,
so our sincere thanks.
yes, thank you.
Excellent. You are certainly welcome to stay. As we go down county rabbit holes now, but a lot of data. Next, our next presentation for this morning is the operational plan update from Sheriff Lewis.
Good morning. Just wanted to touch base on the operational plans of the jail transitioning from our current model to what's coming down in the future here. So with the new design judicial center, the plan is to have still maintain the 24/7 jail coverage with our staff. Currently, just to update, our current staff is 8 full-time employees in the jail, including our jail administrator. We do have 1 open position that hasn't been filled. Dispatch is currently at 8 full-time employees, and our deputies are currently at 15 licensed officers. With the new Justice Center being proposed and built, the need for having a secure and safe courthouse will require a full-time individual at the front doors to man the walk-through metal detector and bag scanner. Currently in the current courthouse, we have 1 bailiff. So with the new system, new judicial center, we would still maintain that bailiff. We would ask to hire a full-time member to secure the front entry for the scanning purposes. And then 1 additional full-time licensed officer as well to be as a roper to help complete that 3 deputy team to assist the bailiff doing day transports, relieving the front door guard, and taking people for PTO trainings, medical appointments for inmates, whatever it may take, so that there's adequate staffing when someone takes off or there's additional duties. With that need in the new operational plans to hire 2 additional deputies, one doing as a rover and one to manage the front door, would be a need to have 2 additional squad cars for those positions. There's also been conversation about a potential transport vehicle, a transport van, if needed, if we are transporting multiple inmates, if there's a need to transport multiple inmates at one time. We've had conversations with neighboring agencies about where our inmates would go, whether it's males or females, if they are here longer than a 72-hour time frame. And our conversations have been towards LeSueur County. That's currently where our inmates go if they're not able to stay in Waseca County. That's where our female inmates go. And we've had good communication with them that they would be willing to take all of our inmates under this new design here in Waseca County. Currently, rates for the daily housing rate for our district that's established and will be the rate for Waseca County and LeSueur County is $75 a day. Historically, that rate has been set by the district, and that can change from annually, but it's usually set for 1 year at a time. But as of today, that's what that rate is. There will be no minimum population requirement. It's just that we would pay per bed space per day. There's also been discussion about court proceedings and when time frame when inmates would go to court. Currently, LeSueur County and Waseca County work well together with doing Zoom hearings. So those inmates that are transported to LeSueur County do not need to be brought back for court always. Sometimes they will be, but when not, they can do Zoom hearings. It's been verbally agreed upon that 11 o'clock time frame is would be workable for both Waseca County and LeSueur County. And that was discussed with the various departments within Waseca County, the judge, court administration, county attorney's office, community corrections is the game plan for that. Our jail administrator would continue to be in charge of our jail and work with making housing arrangements and transportation arrangements, whether it's back and forth between the jails, the court systems, or medical appointments. Be in charge of the current correctional officers. There would be, with less people in Waseca County Jail, there would be some additional job duties that would be assigned to the jail administrator and the correctional officers to keep them busy. And that would relieve some duties from our dispatch center and also our executive assistants. And that would include working more with warrants, sending photos and mugshots from their booking photos to the county attorney's office for accessing MGA and portals for completing additional hold orders. If need be, the jail staff potentially could be used for a second transport officer for a higher risk. Inmates that need to be transported from our facility to another facility or from our facility to prison to maintain safety of our staff and public. With this operational plan, Daly, our team of jail administrator, chief deputy, myself are constantly having ongoing conversations and discussions about how things are going to look, what job descriptions are going to look like, and how duties are going to change. We've looked at other counties surrounding us for potential housing arrangements, and Waseca County continues to be a good fit for this operational change.
Thank you, Sheriff. Questions or comments for our sheriff?
Well, fortunately, Jay, you got me sitting across from you, kind of knowing how some of this process works.
Yes.
The one question I have, you have jailer staff that'll take the processing and entering organization of warrants. Are you gonna send all the jailers back to certification school for the warrants?
That would be the plan if that falls under their job description. As you know, we currently are dispatch enters the warrants and removes the warrants and verifies and does some validations along with the executive assistants. But in order to take some of that responsibility off the dispatchers when they're busy, that we may transfer that job duty to the jailers and yes, send them back to school.
At least from what I recall, it's quite a process you have to do. PCA wants you to do criminal history, so you have all the points and the fingerprints in there, so you have to do a full criminal history of the individual. Put it on the warrant when you have to enter into the portals.
That's correct. Yes, portals. Yep.
And then like BCA, and then if you have a timely, if you get a notification, you have to go over the time.
There's urgent responses, 10-minute responses, or a delayed response. You're correct.
Yeah.
And so we feel that there may be potentially more time that the jailers would have availability to do that. And will alleviate that responsibility from dispatch when they're dealing with high profile calls, emergency situations, mental health calls, and they're not being interrupted with those high profile cases. So it's a discussion at this point.
Okay. My other question is the court times. I just want to make sure that we don't run into, how our court always had it's 11:30 is our court time. Running into issues where Waseca County is tied up with their people at the same time. You mentioned that somebody's met with the judge and administration.
We have had meetings here recently. There was an email sent out. I had a conversation with Waseca County Sheriff and our jail administrators had conversations, Dan Mokel and Jeremy Swinson from Waseca County about what would best work. And we figured that we came with a conclusion that 11 o'clock timeframe would work best for both departments. It would be acceptable for county attorneys, court administration, and the judge. And if need be, their jail administrator and Waseca County can make accommodations, hopefully, to make that 11 o'clock timeframe work. Also, along with, I believe it was sent out to the public defenders that represent, most of the inmates, so they'll work with them. So as of now, that 11 o'clock timeframe is kind of what was verbally agreed upon that will work. And Waseca County will accommodate us as needed to maintain that 11 o'clock timeframe, so it's more consistent as it has been historically here at around that 11:30 timeframe.
The other question I have on top of that is the paperwork, making sure there's a paper trail that public defender forms are filled out properly and back and forth, and they get the warrants, the copy of the warrants if they don't get it from our facility that they have. So when they appear, have you read the report? As we know, I said, well, I never got no paperwork, and they actually have most of the time.
Yeah, and so it's been a conversation of recent, and which is very important that court administration emails us the proper sentencing orders or release conditions so that we have that. And historically, we have received those papers, our jail staff receives them, and then we've emailed them up to Waseca County and they distribute them to the inmates. That goes along with public defender forms that need to be filled out. And some of those forms may be able to be handed out to inmates when they're suspects when they're arrested in Waseca County. When they're booked, some of them forms may be able to be given to them. If not, they can be emailed off to Waseca County, and they've been very good at receiving those emails, getting those paperwork, those forms filled out from the inmates that are being out there, and then they email them back to us, and then our jail staff gets them emailed those public defender forms off to where they need to go.
You still get records of sentencing or release orders from the courts? I were changing that to MGA when I was walking out the door. I thought that was all. right.
Well, there were some change, but as of recent, those sentencing orders are again being emailed to our jail staff.
Okay.
Which is definitely needed in a huge, communication piece to keep things clear and consistent, so we know what the sentencing are and when people are reporting for duty or how much time they have. So yes, we are getting them again.
Is the thought of maybe utilizing jail staff for kind of misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor transport instead of having a licensed officer do them? Is it, a lot of agencies I know, they have retired law enforcement do some of their transport. That's why I'm just asking if that would be a possibility.
Everything's possible. But we have looked at that operational plan. We've also trying to find ways that we can keep our staff busy with having a three-person rotation in the courthouse with a licensed bailiff, someone licensed at the front door to maintain, to stop threat if need be, and to have that third deputy in there to assist with providing breaks, filling in for PTO, time off, days off, medical appointments or whatever. They would be able to be best utilized doing those positions or being able to follow up with investigations in the sheriff's office or going out and assisting with traffic. If there's times where there's a need for additional transports, there's been discussion on using non-licensed staff to assist with those transports. But if we had non-licensed staff, they're going to be in the jail, and then we'll end up taking them from the jail. And then who's going to backfill in the jail is the question.
Right, and I get some of that backfilling and stuff, and like, let's say you have a busy court day coming in, there's gonna be a lot of people coming in, could you have a jailer go up? Let's say the jail administrator's there, you can kind of watch if you get any inmates or have a jailer go up and assist with the entry point, just pushing people through and looking at things.
Yes, that would be a part of the newly created job description as an option for them. Yep.
And my last question is, you got jail administrator, in quotes, keeper of the inmates. What does that refer to, or what do you mean?
Just, he'll still be responsible for daily jail operations and making sure inspections are, making sure the building, the jail is ready for inspections and being DOC compliant. So just for people that don't truly understand what the jail administrator does, he's responsible for rules and regulations, but also just to make sure that the inmates are getting the services that they need. So
I guess kind of reading through this, the jail administrator is going to kind of handle the majority of all these things that are taking place on here. Is that the way I'm reading that? I mean, there'll be some other, administrative parts on here, but for the most day-to-day operation, the jail administrator is going to handle the day-to-day inmates in and out and where they're going and what they're doing and
yes,
who does what.
yes, I think that would probably at this point is what we're planning, because a lot of the jail records will be coming, and court records will be coming to our jail staff. I mean, they come to administration as well, but to have one person kind of responsible for that is going to be important. And then also if the jail staff does take over the warrant data, that he can oversee that as well. So we got one person, since he's already supervising the jail staff, he can be responsible for that. So it is the belief that the proposal that, yes, he'll be responsible for these things that are mentioned. And there'll be, people to assist him as well for when he's out of the office for whatever reason, vacation, PTO, or.
Well, that would be my concern, is if the jail administrator is not there, who's next in charge that you can say, hey, you need to take care of this today, because this has happened. We have a busy court day and he's sick or something like that.
Well, it'd be myself or the chief deputy. It could also be another jail staff member, because currently Dan works, the jail administrator works Monday through Friday and is always there.
Yeah.
With the current rotation of jail staff, we don't have a second person that's always there Monday through Friday. So I have no doubt that we will transition and discuss and train somebody else to be familiar with that process. But the only other positions that are, there full-time are Monday through Friday would be the sheriff and chief deputy that can assist with that and know the process and know the schedule of the deputies and jail staff.
Your sergeants work weekends, don't they, and holidays?
Yes,
Would it be possible maybe having to have one of them as your second? Because on those days when you're not there, or weekends and holidays, and Dan's not there.
absolutely, they would have a part of it as well. The only hiccup with that situation is they're primarily scheduled for evening shifts, evenings and or overnights. And a lot of the transports or court stuff or needs for transports happen during the daytime.
But if it's on the weekends, they should kind of fall within that
Yes,
organization.
yes, if it would be on the, yeah, that's correct. If it would be on a weekend or holiday, they would be looped in on the email chain as well, so that we all know, we know it's covered and somebody would do it, but that would be correct. Sergeants would have a part of that.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman. You touched on quite a few things. I do have some questions on the fact that if we didn't have a SPS or a Huber in there, it's very possible that there would be no one in those holding cells during the day.
That's correct.
Okay. And if we were to entertain the thought of doing 2 additional FTEs and 2 more squad cars, would those, they would be deputies, would they be rotational into the roster of deputies that are on duty?
Yes, that would be the discussion that needs to be finalized, but that has been part of our discussion is what that rotation would be between a bailiff, a front door, security, a licensed position, or that roving deputy, how they would rotate throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout a 3-month, 6-month period, 1-year period. It would be a conversation of how best those positions could be rotated.
And I understand that we're all going into this, it's fairly new.
Also that, they would be able to assist too if there's, say, a week where there's no court. They may not be in the courtroom or courthouse. They would be able to go out and assist with traffic details or accidents if it's the middle of winter time, or assist with investigations that need to be completed or follow up. There's a number of things that they would be asked to do.
So I'm just trying to figure out some crossover here. If there was absolutely no one in any of the holding cells, if you will, we still have 6 FTE jailers and a jail administrator.
Correct.
Are there 2 jailers on every single day with the jail administrator, or 1 jailer and 1 jail administrator?
There'd be 1 jailer on per shift. So basically be broken down into 3 shifts.
Okay.
And there'll have to be 1 jail administrator on during the daytime. And then the jail staff, the correctional officers, would be working a shift.
So it's possible we could have a jailer and a jail administrator there with nobody in any cells.
Correct.
In our facility, but we'd still have responsibility for those in the store. So the administration piece isn't going to go away.
Right. He can do administrative things if nobody's there.
We did have a chance to have a subcommittee, personnel subcommittee, and see the second time sheriff, and I thank you for the preview we had. And one of our asks from the subcommittee was to do some digging and bring us some numbers so that we can do some analysis of the what ifs. If we would have shipped out everybody we could have shipped out, how many people would we have had in our jail? How many transports would we be making to actually get us the best data that we could locally to help us get a view of what we're getting into here. I think that data is going to be extremely important in helping us figure out how many bodies are needed where. I appreciate the multiplicity of skills that everybody in our sheriff's department has, that and their willingness to cover whatever bases need to be covered, because that's what public safety does, is they make sure the bases are covered no matter what and no matter who's there. But I think from my end, one of my concerns is we're going to have a lot of people there that could do all these different jobs, but how many bodies do we really need to do those specific jobs? And I think those numbers are going to help us figure that out. I mean, obviously, we don't want to be understaffed, but we want the right people in the right seats too. And it has been I think one of our stated goals, that at this point, we want to figure out what this is going to look like, and we want to start stepping into practicing it with the folks we have, finding out from them where they want to grow, what they want to do to increase their skill sets if they want a different seat in the room. And we have time to do that now. So I'm going to put a little pressure on you, knowing that the expert who probably has the ability to do this also has a full plate. Though that data is going to be really important for us, and I don't want to let it fire, but I do want to let it fire.
So I can say that since our meeting the meeting we had with the subcommittee, is that jail administrator Dan Mokel and our executive assistant Dawn and Julie have been working on those statistics. And I'm not sure, Dan, if you can give an update to.
I don't have an update, but I do have all the data that I need to compile. So I've been working on it. I started on it yesterday, and it's a little bit cumbersome, but I am working on it. I should have it to you, hoping probably early next week.
Oh my goodness. Thank you,
Yep.
Dan, for that
Yep.
very quick response.
Yes.
I know that you're the expert that can do this for us. And we want to absolutely take advantage of your expertise here to help us to help shape the vision here. Thank you so much. I'm going to give anybody else a chance first, because you always have a lot of questions. Does anybody else need to ask a question before? Because I know you're the expert here.
I'm not an expert. I'm just a user. I just make it.
Yeah. I'm going to let them follow up, and
I
then
was
you'll
going to ask a little more about just the whole idea of the 72-hour and running it 24/7. I know we talked about at the personnel committee, also, how many other counties in the state run a 72-hour facility. Now I know Doug said that we had 11 that don't run as class 3. 3 of them we know don't have any jails like Dodge. So we're down to 8. Has there been, how does the person find out how many are running them as 72-hour facilities, and how can we make contact with them on how they run?
It's just a simple matter of, you'd have to reach out to them. We get the
And
list.
you know those counties?
I know some of them.
Okay.
I get a list, and then one of us would reach out to the jail administrator or whoever would be in charge of that facility and just state, how do you handle not having class 3? So it'd be a matter, like I said, I think we crossed off 3 of them that we're aware of, be down to approximately 8, and we'd be able to reach out to them.
I think that would, to me, that would be very helpful too, is, obviously their populations will probably be different than our populations, but if we can get like populations and how they're running their facilities, at least it's something we can go off of.
Some of those apples to oranges too, because the one in particular that I reached out, I asked what their average daily population was historically, and they said it's been 1 for a very, very long time. It was a sparsely populated county up north. So
Right.
it wouldn't take a long time to get answers from some of the counties.
Yeah, and I did look up the Rock and Grant, and they're very small counties, probably with very small population.
Yep.
So yeah, it might be difficult to get a light county like ours, but it still could be helpful. I'm curious to know if they are running an open 24/7 house facility, you know? Or if they make sure that those inmates are gone on Friday and they don't have the jail open over the weekends and that type of thing, how do they run?
The answer could be gotten, because either you're a class 3 or you're not, and we could figure out what those knots are.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
You
for your-
ready?
Thanks for your patience.
Couple of questions now that Doug brought that up.
Sure.
You have to be open on the weekend. You never know. I granted, there could be nobody there at 8 a.m. and by 10 you could have 4 sitting. So to have the jail administrator and jailer working, you gotta have them just because you don't know what's gonna happen that fast with it.
Right, but they don't come by themselves, they come with the deputy.
Not generally speaking, no, they could be the PD, could be arrested somebody in town. Oh, that's true. You know, so you gotta have somebody there waiting. Granted, it seems like, I don't wanna say it's a waste, but you gotta have somebody there. You just never know. So it's like an insurance policy. You gotta have it because you never know what's gonna happen.
Good to know that perspective.
I just wanted to kind of cover that. But my other question, and Jay or Dan can maybe ask this, what's our time frame on trying to go with this kind of a setting them up, 3 in our jail, rest in LeSueur or wherever you're gonna house them? Do you have a time frame when we should start that so we can see how it works?
Don't have a time frame. We've had discussion and it's flexible. So I've had conversation with LeSueur County and it's just a matter of picking a date, you know, and working with our justice partners here in Waseca County. Everyone to just making sure that it's workable with them as well to see if there's any conflicts. But as far as from jail to jail, sheriff's office, I don't believe there's any conflicts with the other departments, but it's just a matter of picking the date and saying, this is what we're going to, and then also working on some job descriptions and assignments for our existing staff that are here and maybe reassigning their duties or adding to their job descriptions.
I'm just thinking if we get that time down where we can at least play with it a little bit, see what happens, what needs to be completed and not completed and done, and what works, what doesn't work, so we can have a time frame before the actual new buildings here in a week or so. So
That's an open date that can happen with the conversations I've had.
have you worked with HR, job descriptions, or talked to other counties and stuff?
We haven't looked at, I've had conversations with HR, but we have not changed any job descriptions just because some of this is unknown on how we're going to, who's going to take what additional assignments or duties under the, and that could be ongoing and adjusting as from month to month or for 6 months from now. So that's been a topic that's been mentioned, but we haven't gone down a deep rabbit hole on that just because there's some unknowns that what is going to be best practice for the operations for jail staff assisting in the courthouse or jail staff doing warrant duties or removing that from the dispatch job description. Maybe that won't be a good option. Maybe it will be. So those are just ideas that are being discussed.
You've emphasized to jail staff, nobody's losing their job. Right?
We have multiple times and for a period of time. That's why we're hoping to change some job descriptions to make sure that no one does lose a job and they have additional responsibilities to keep them busy.
I would say, and Michael, this is probably as much for you, but certainly for the sheriff as well. If we're going to think about a cutover date at some point here and get some numbers, make some decisions, have these things land, have our experienced staff trial this and give us feedback so we can refine the process. I think it's going to be very important that we have an MOU or an MOA with LeSueur at that cutoff, at that cutover date. So far, this is a neighborly handshake and it's working now, but, and I don't know whose plate that falls on, whether it's administration or it's the sheriffs to say, let's get some language together for this, because we need some draft language.
We had drafted something a long time ago.
We knew we had some earlier. And if that's already out there, then it's ready to go.
It's fine.
Awesome. Thank you,
And
Rich.
just to add to that, there has been conversation about what if there's an inmate that won't be accepted. And in the conversation we've had is that it'll be just like our facilities times, so people are under a controlled substance or alcohol where they need to be detoxed. Same practice here, we would take them to detox. We have same practice with, it's been agreed upon with Waseca County detox. Or if they have medical issues, we'd have to take them to the hospital until they're medically cleared, and then they would, Waseca County would accept them. And then there's others that sometimes are just a handful that whether it's our jail or another jail isn't equipped to handle a certain inmate. They have been willing, agreed to accept those inmates, and so we can find placement for them elsewhere, whatever county that may be.
That would be one, I think, Rachel stated, you already have a contract somewhat drawn up, not signed, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
And you don't have a date where you're going to do that because it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have inmates up there when we still have a functioning jail and DOC hasn't shut down, then you're just double paying.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, I think you know who's going to be incarcerated longer. So you would obviously move those inmates up there, and the frequent flyers come and go as they may, that would be the later choice, I would assume. But to put a date on it would really be tough unless we're limited by the DOC on what our timeline is here for keeping inmates in.
We just completed an annual jail inspection here this spring, and we passed. And so there's been no limitations from the DOC. So we'll have another annual inspection in the spring of 2027.
One last thing. Sheriff, this is option one. Do you have option two on the works here?
This is the best option we have. In order to maintain a 24/7 operation here and to have, and to work with Waseca County on long-term housing. And so if need be to have other discussions, we're certainly welcome to that to make it most effective and efficient for all of our Justice Center partners and our Sheriff's Office.
This one kind of goes to Dan mostly with Waseca County, making sure that the Waseca County staff, the correctional officers, don't treat Waseca County as second class people and push them off the sites and we're dealing with ours. They have to be equal with up there. And it has to start at the top to push down because you know those phone calls you get, well, we don't want them, but then you talk to the sergeant says, yeah, we'll take them.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that that's clear if we're going that route.
I know that the sheriff has had a conversation with their sheriff in Waseca County that touched on that, and I've had that conversation a little bit with their jail administrator too about, you know, they've been kind of, traditionally there have been times where they've been picky with certain people, and that once we are moving forward with this, that, you know, that abundance of caution that, well, it's not really our person, we don't want to deal with that, probably isn't going to be an effective long-term relationship. So we've had that conversation.
Yeah, them being selective is an option now, but moving forward, selection is, it has been agreed upon, it's not accepted.
We had face-to-face meetings with them in person, and we specifically brought that concern up and said, we can't have you say, well, we just can't have this person. Like, if you're gonna be our jail, you're gonna be our jail. And they were very receptive to that.
I just know history, you know, well, we don't want, that's not our problem, you know, but this is gonna be our jail.
And we brought up some of those scenarios to them where they had, I mean, they obviously were the least restrictive compared to some other jails who've turned us away.
Yeah.
So that's why we've gone that direction.
Good, but.
I'm still that Commissioner Hargett is saying that we really can't put a date, but in my mind, I would like to see a January 1, 2027 date that this gets switched over to a 72-hour facility. Because we're going to need to, you know, there's different things within the budget that's going to change not just staffing, there's other things, there's the meal plans, there's the medical contracting. Those types of things all have to get looked at on a budget perspective. And that'll give us a year to look at what that budget's gonna look like before it actually happens. So in my mind, I'd like to see it happen January 1. That way we go through this whole budgeting process this summer with that in mind.
If we're looking at not losing any, we've told people, we want everybody to stay employed here for now. We want to explore this model. We want you to find your spot in it. If we assume that, and then we look at those other things that we know are going to change and have a chance to see how they change in a year. That control the variables we can control and measure the ones we can't.
Because we're still a year-round facility. The cost of that year-round facility is some of those other things that we're gonna have to change once we move down. So other than just the cost of the building sitting there, I just think it would be advantageous to get it along. That's my opinion.
Other questions or comments for the sheriff?
I have one more on this parting question.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I was just wondering, because you're on your second term, have you applied for the National Sheriff's Institution?
I have not.
Just a thought, because after this, then you can give them something. They pay for everything, so I think it'd be a very good experience.
Yep, I don't believe the schedule has came out, the registration period has came out, but it's on my horizon. Thank you.
So,
Sir?
I'm gonna go circle around again, because I think that are we gonna leave it up to the sheriff to pick that date? Or are we gonna make an board action on that date? How do we come to a conclusion? Is it gonna come before us as an action item, or are you gonna make that decision?
Well, I think that Chair has asked us for some statistics on transports and stuff of that nature to report back. And so my belief is that we're going to get those statistics back, and there was some analyzation of cost of, what it actually costs to house over there, cost to house somebody here. And then I think it'd be beneficial to report that back to our subcommittee and then make a decision to the board and say, this is what we're going to do. And if the goal potentially is that January 1st, we can work towards that. And once we get the data back that jail administrator was researching, some other information that Chief Deputy or I are researching, then we can report that back to you and use that as part of our potential date. I mean, that's
At least we got a plan in place.
a plan, and then down the road, if we need to take board action to finalize that final date, great. If not, we'll just continue with having that workable relationship with Waseca County and say this is when we're transitioning and get everything into place.
I'm kind of with Doug on that too. I'd like the first of the year would be an idea, depending on what we're gonna, we know we're gonna go that route.
Correct.
So, numbers are gonna be numbers.
Sure.
And, but I think like the first year, so we can do our budgeting and planning ahead for that.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes, whether we do it October 1st, January 1st, or April 1st, it's, that's a communication piece that we'll have with law enforcement subcommittee, and then potentially bring back to the labor committee or the board and continue to work with HR on that, if there will be any changes, how that will affect job duties and responsibilities.
We will look forward to some further discussion, some data. Thank you so much. And we need to make some decisions here pretty quick. I know just from the budgeting process, there's pressure to know more than what we know now. And so we appreciate all the time and energy that's going in to pulling out information that we have locally and also looking at best practices that are out there in other places and using your experience to help us come up with what this is going to be and a best model here. We're counting on the experience that you all have to get us to this next new vision. And so I appreciate it. We're making no decisions today because this is a presentation, not a decision making, not an opinion. So any other things for our sheriffs? Otherwise, I would dismiss you and thank you for your time and your energy.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug.
Something that's said. All right. We are on to number 4 on our agenda, approval of the county board minutes. They were in our packet. We had a chance to review them. And I would be looking for a motion to either approve them or amend them.
So move that. Second.
Yeah. Thanks for being our helper there, Deb. We appreciate it. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then we are on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the approval of bills, May 2026 monthly electronic fund transfer, the fund transfer in community corrections, the amendment of the agricultural use zone restricted covenant that exists on PID 01 025 0200 due to recently completed minor subdivision, the county equipment use for the 2026 Waseca County Free Fair, and the temporary road closures in Janesville for paydays.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Stop.
I heard Christopherson first. So motion by Commissioner Milbrow, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, consent agenda is finished. A couple of action items. Item A, Smith literacy grant, and there's books up here.
There's books for you to preview. I didn't need to bring them back with me, so I felt a little early, but it looked like you got a little engaged and maybe didn't get a chance to peek at them. So I'll give you some time here while I talk to take a look. These are examples from last year's grant. We have not picked up this year's books. That's something that's happening later today with your approval. Of course, we need your approval before we do that if at all possible. But this is an annual grant. It's a great partnership between Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, ABDO Publishing, and Capstone Publishers. They have a lot of places that they give books to in the 28th county region for early literacy. We've just really enjoyed having this program. They provide a variety of books. Some years are more geared to our early learners, really early learners. Some years are more geared to, maybe early grade school learners, which is more of what you have in front of you today. But we provide these primarily during home visits, introducing reading to baby in utero and continuing with regular book installments as baby grows and learns. Helps families get started on their own home library, which as a daughter of educators, it is a travesty to learn that people do not have a home library. So we're really excited to be able to give this option. And then they also help introduce the process of where else you can access books and learning. And so introducing them to library card process, making sure they have information about story time at the library that's nearest them. Things like that are a part of that conversation for our home visitors. We also distribute in other areas, and so our senior clients may be recipients if they do some care for their grandchildren, for example. We do try and get books to kids as best we can. This year, our grant award is 120 children's books. Excuse me, 20 of those will be Spanish language, so that we can give culturally appropriate options for those who are interested. We do have a small cost for this, and it's really mileage and staff time to go pick that books up. That's really it. So very minimal, about $275. With that, I would love for you to accept the award of Smith.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So does somebody look at these books? You just get the books, or does somebody?
Right, we shop, but there's not a lot of time that you get to spend in the warehouse. So there's a limited amount of vetting we can do while we're in the warehouse, and that's our staff that provide the books that do make that visit. I know that last year, the offerings were very different than the year before. So the ones you have in front of you are very different than what we received the year. That is really about the changing what they're able to donate to this program. And so while there's still stellar books and really great things there, maybe they may have typographically like the same age. There may be some they may be not as exciting, or they're not going to generally be your New York bestsellers that they're going to be gifted. So we try, but it's a quick turnaround time. You're in and out of that warehouse pretty quickly, and you're grabbing quantities.
Right. I mean, there's quite a variety of different books.
Yeah.
It's not that we could, somebody looked at them before. So you just won't want to get a pile of books and never know what's in them. So
You go look at this.
I don't see any tractors or anything.
I just grabbed an handful. I didn't necessarily look carefully when I grabbed anything.
I guess I get pretty frustrated with a book that's geared toward 4, 5, 6-year-old that needs to talk about racism, needs to talk about how people love and promoting just free and easy lifestyle. And that's what that book there does.
This one here. Yeah.
I will say that our home visitors know the culture that they're stepping into in those homes. And so they're trying to find books that are of interest to the individuals they're providing that to. So there is that piece of the vetting happens later. And then thinking about the age of the child is something as well that comes into consideration. There's probably a reason that these particular books are sitting here after a year. So they're probably not the ones that have been hot off the shelf for most recent.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's kind of where I wanted to go, and wasn't quite sure how to go that way. But I mean, yeah, we do want to be careful what we're putting in before.
We also want to be real about the fact that the children that we're serving experience very unpleasant circumstances when they step out of their home, and that we want them to be prepared for things as well. So it's a balance that home visitor tries to strike, again, knowing who they're having conversations with and what their circumstances might be in their own cultural groups.
I agree. We want to be providing appropriate books in the appropriate place. But having been a parent and a grandparent and an educator, I know how important it is to put books in hand where kids see themselves in those books, where they recognize the color of the people, the ethnic background of the people, their circumstances in life. And understanding that all that helps them figure out life, no matter what their age is. Certainly, there are kids that are 15 years old that have experienced racism in their lives. And I think it's important to. These books are not books that kids read once. They read them over and over. They look at the pictures. They see themselves in the picture, and what they see when they read it, when somebody reads it to them at 3 is different than when they start reading it for themselves at 6. And then they're on to other things too. This isn't the only thing they see. Yeah, I'm thinking I gotta look up the when Penny meets POTUS, because I'd like my granddaughters to meet POTUS and to figure out that they might someday be able to be POTUS. Wouldn't that be awesome? We want them to aspire to things too. So I appreciate the caution, but I also appreciate the breadth of topics that we have to have there. Because I feel strongly about education and books and homes, I'm going to take the prerogative to move this, accepting this grant. So motion by Malter. I'm looking for a second.
Second, Milbrand.
Motion by Malter, second by Milbrand. Further discussion.
I wish I went to look at that book. And it's not the racism part in that book. There's other things in there that bother me. And I know there's a lot of good things that with these books, but I wish I would have looked at the rabbit that was hippity hop. And I think that's more appropriate for the age group that we're going after here. So, who did you say vets these books?
Our nurses do the home visiting. So the nurses pick,
So we can pick as a county.
we do what we can when we're in the warehouse to pick what is the most appropriate. Last year's offerings were much more geared toward older learners than we have had in previous. So they did what they could with what was available. And then additionally, once they're on our shelf in the office, those, the home visitors who is our PD, our certified community health worker and nursing staff, look at the book that they're bringing to the home and try to match the best they can, the book, like the learning level, and this is not just about the child's learning level, but also the abilities of the parent to read the book to their child and what would be of interest so they know that it will get read to the child. Those are things that they're considering when they're bringing those books out, if they're visiting someone in a multi-level apartment complex who has lived in city all their life, they probably won't bring one out that's about farming because it's just not going to get read. So they do try and get those matched up the best that they can. Again, these are the books that after a year are still sitting on our shelves, so they're the ones that are harder to match with the people that we're serving.
Well, I'm gonna vote yes to this because I'm gonna leave it up to your staff to do the right thing.
They do fabulous work. They do this with care and intention.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Christopherson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hardeth,
Yes.
Commissioner Milbreath,
Yes.
Commissioner Krause,
No.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And their hand looks like-
I'm sorry, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Request for public hearing to consider a conditional use permit to create a pond closer than the required 75-foot setback. PID 05-030-1110 Erickson. And PID 05-030.1150 Taylor. Go ahead, T.
Good morning. Thank you again for allowing me to come before you. We would ask you to hold the public hearing, but I'd like to give you a little background. We have two property owners who share a property line that has a wetland that goes across into both of their lands, and they wanted to do some enhancement to that wetland. So they did go through Soil and Water Conservation District for permissions to enhance the wetland. And they did receive a notice of decision that said that they would approve enhancing the wetland with conditions. And I will point out that part of the technical evaluation panel included our Chris Howard. So when staff processed the application and went through conditions, we were able to work with Chris Howard and Mark Shotsky to make sure that we had the appropriate conditions in place. So you may, the Planning Commission reviewed this and took a look and voted through the criteria. I presented you with the criteria for approval and the findings of fact. I would like to maybe give you reference to the property. It would be page 56 of the packet or page 5 of the conditional use permit. There's a map that shows where the wetland goes. And in essence, the notice of decision said it's okay. They want to dig the pond deeper. They want to take it down. It's kind of marshy now and make it 3 feet deep. And the condition is that they are not to alter any of the edges of the wetlands, and any disturbed ground with the equipment would be replanted. And so there were some specific requirements on the replanting. We were able to, before the Planning Commission reviewed it, we were able to collect agency comments from Land and Water Resources, Department of Natural Resources, and Soil and Water. So we made sure that the Planning Commission staff report had a full impact of those statements before they had an opportunity to review them. You may recognize, for some context, the map shows 3 parcels. You may remember Sam Bornicke split the 3 parcels. We did do a variance with the split, though. The parcel on the far right has no building residential allowed upon it because it is within the zone of the feedlot that's there. There is a partial in the middle lot, the 1150. There is a variance in effect, but they can't, there's still they have to build more towards the middle of the parcel based on the variance to the feedlot. And then there is no encumbrance on the 3rd parcel that's the PID 1110. In the public hearing held at the Planning Commission, there were a couple of neighbors who did come in and speak. Currently, we are experiencing runoff into the farm on the western side when there are large rain events. I think the position of Soil and Water and then subsequently Planning Commission was that by making the pond deeper, that would maybe hold back some of the water that would come in a runoff. The neighbors were objecting to anybody building a house there, but we've kind of passed that because we did the minor subdivision last year, we did the transfer of development rights last year, and we did the variance for, so all of that happened last year and it was published and notified So moving forward, some of the conditions that we put in place, you can see what the conditions are, but any future development on those properties is subject to our ordinances for shoreland and wetlands, as well as the ag preservation. So they still have to would apply for a zoning permit. Our code says that if you're going to impound water within 75 feet of the boundary of that property, then you have to have a conditional use permit. And in this particular case, because the wetland crosses and it's shared by both parcels, obviously we're not meeting the 75-foot setback from the water. So they did the proper process. They went to SWCD, got it evaluated by them, found out what the parameters were in order to do the wetlands. So Planning Commission has forwarded this to you with a recommendation for approval, and staff is also recommending that there is approval. And I would stand for questions.
Before we ask.
Yes, we should. I do confer a motion. No, this is not a public hearing. This is a request for a public hearing. So that's our action.
Well, to approve, you hold the public hearing in order to approve the CUP.
Yeah, so because public hearing first.
The public hearing is, you hold a public hearing to approve the CUP.
Okay, so I was looking at this and said, request for public hearing, like we were setting a date. This is the date we already set.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Then let me flip to the right page of my notes.
Oh.
Our topic has been introduced. We have listened to the presentation. We can take questions from the commissioners right now, if there are any, before we move into the public hearing.
The one question, you said it was only going to be 3 feet. Was a condition.
No, Chris Howard from Land and Water wanted us to be sure that it wouldn't be any more than that 8. And the reason why he requested that to be in there is when a pond reaches that depth, it comes under the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer. The plan for the enhancement as well, conversation, they only want to take it down 3 feet. They're not intending to go that far, but Chris wanted that notification in there because of how it would impact with the Army Corps of Engineers.
I'm good with big and pond because anything that can hold water without running somebody else's area. But
Thank you. Other questions? Martina?
Yeah, just a comment with that pond being built, and it was 3 feet deep. It's 3 feet from only 3 foot deeper from the level of the ground, undisturbed ground.
Well, it's already a wetland, so they're digging
Right.
deeper.
It's a wetland. When they're done, the water will be 3 feet deep.
Right. Right. So, and then they're gonna haul the spoil.
There is specific directions under the conditions of what to do with the spoils. If you go to condition
Yeah, they don't have to leave them there, they can haul.
no, they can, yeah, so it's all part of the land alteration permit they'll have to apply for.
The only thing
It says, look at number 7. All spoils coming out of the pond excavation will be placed in an upland area, leveled, stabilized, and seeded within 14 days. Part of the notice of decision is they have to notify SWCD before construction starts. Mark Shotsky will go out, he will inspect during construction and post-construction to ensure that they've met the conditions of SWCD. So it will have an inspection to confirm the seeding takes place.
And with that water that's going, I mean, that'll be a retention pond, but until you get 2 developments on there, then your impervious surface is going to
Increase.
increase, which will fill the pond, and you'll be back to just as much water going,
Unfortunately,
and the county cannot do anything about that.
you know, because it goes to the west there.
West,
Right off that fence line there, it catches that.
right.
It goes property line, I shouldn't say fence line, property.
Correct.
I've seen that sit there, but it does that now even with the heavy rain.
Correct.
There's a little bit of a natural flow, it's kind of in a diamond shape, and there is like a channel leading out of the south end of it. I will say that in the conversation with Mark Shosky, Chris, and Sam Bornicky will be doing the construction work. They're hoping the water stays in it. Right now, there's somewhat of a seasonal impact of the wetlands. It's not what the 365 days worth. And so that they're hoping that it creates a pond. I don't know. We'll see. We've had some good rains. That might have been an indication that they haven't started work yet.
Other questions? Go ahead, sir.
This is unrelated, but we have an 11 o'clock Zoom with Freeborn County for GD8. So if you guys don't mind me stepping just back here, it's gonna take about 3 minutes.
Yes.
I don't vote on this, will be okay, right?
I gotta stay here.
I think we can manage without
Do
you.
you want anybody?
Thank
to
you
go
for,
with you?
I mean, you and I are on that, but I think it only takes one of us.
well, otherwise, why don't we recess for 5-7 minutes? You guys go do what you have to
That's
do.
all it's gonna take, we're just setting a date.
Do you,
Okay. We'll take a break.
Sorry,
can we take a break right in the middle of the public hearing?
I haven't opened the public hearing
Oh,
yet.
okay.
So why don't we recess for just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you guys need. Thanks for bringing it up so that we're at 11. You guys got your business taken care of?
Yeah.
And we finished questions from the commissioners. Are there any additional questions from the commissioners on this request? All right, not seeing any, then the chair will move us into public hearing at 11:11. And I would ask if there's anyone here for public comment? Anyone online for public comment?
Not willing to speak, Madam Chair.
One more time, anybody for public comment? I asked 3 times. I will close the public hearing at 11:11. Then I would look for a motion. Oh, no, I'm not going to just close it. I'm going to look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion to close it.
Thank you.
Second, Krause.
All right, motion by Milbrook, second by Krause. All in favor of closing the public hearing, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, now we would move to board action. And a conditional use permit usually has 2 actions to it. One is to approve the conditions and then to approve the permit. So I would look for a motion to approve the conditions.
I would move the conditions.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Hardwick to approve conditions. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then I would look for a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit.
I'll make that motion.
I will, okay, Commissioner Milbrook, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, that conditional use permit has.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
And if it's okay, we'll go back to our office. I did email my report, always open to questions, but it's been closed on morning, so we're gonna go back and.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. You too. Next on our agenda is administrative update.
Yeah, all right, just a couple of things to share with you. I'll try not to be too long. Quick reminder that we reviewed that draft of board operating guidelines on May 19th. I haven't heard any other specific feedback or comments yet, but we've had a few things going on in between that and now. But I plan to bring that for formal approval on July 7th. So I can send that again to get it to the top of your inbox, if that's helpful.
What was that again? I missed it.
We, on the work session on May 19th, we went through board operating guidelines, so that proposed draft I had shown you.
Okay.
So I'll send you the draft document, just so it's at the top of your inbox, and plan to bring that on July 7th, so you have almost 3 weeks to go through and read and make some notes if you would like to do so. And if you feel like a work session would be helpful again ahead of that, being on the actual agenda, certainly willing to do that. Just let me know your preferences there. So I'll send that up to you today. District meeting takeaways. I know the chair mentioned that day she had some more work for me to do, so to hear what my assignments will be. But part of the conversation there was about semi-quincentennial events, of which we don't have any formal plans, and the only plan even really mentioned in idea for counties was a Declaration of Independence reading, which is a national venture that's taking place. So that actually happens on the 8th of July, not the 4th of July. As you may be aware, the Second Continental Congress did formally adopt that document on the 4th of July, but it was not until July 8th at noon when it was read in Independence Square in Philadelphia. So that's when people actually heard about it. It didn't have quite the media outlets and internet connectivity we have today. So a little bit of a lag period. So there's a nationwide event that's happening on July 8th at noon with the reading
of the Declaration of Independence. If that's something you'd like to entertain, I can certainly get that set up, and we can do that a few different ways. If there's some interest in that, I'm happy to put something in place. Public hearing, I'll be bringing a request to schedule a public hearing on July 7th to be held on July 21st, which is going to be a review of the ordinance for our special assessment on solid waste fees. And having several conversations with Public Works Director and our county assessor about how these fees are structured and how they work, and if they are working correctly. Well, not if they're working correctly, but if they're working as efficiently as they could be. It was a very complicated process, and it's one that we adopted from our old legacy tax collection system and implemented in our new system. It's very administratively burdensome, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, just putting that out there. And if you go back and look at how that original ordinance was phrased from nearly 50 years ago, it's pretty complicated, and you can't hardly explain it to the average person that would ask. At least I can't. Or Brock. Or Jim. So none of the people that should be able to intelligently speak to it can really intelligently speak to it. I can tell you how it works, but it doesn't make any sense how it does. So it warrants some further discussion about how should this work in the future. So Brock has done well to gather a lot of examples of other counties, and simple is best in my mind with how we approach this. So there's some ideological things we'll talk through in terms of what should be the amount that's actually raised in terms of how it equates to the operational budget of solid waste versus how it's actually applied through the tax system and represented on a tax bill itself. So that, go ahead.
Isn't, you're talking about how we assess the cost of the recycling.
Yes.
Isn't it just a flat fee we put on?
It's not a flat fee per parcel or per household. It is a unit fee, but not, so it is flat per unit, but not all properties have the same number of units. And there is some convolution for how that works. And then you factor in commercial industrial parcels that have a kind of a changing scale on market value as well. So there are a number of ways we can just equate it and very simplify it greatly. This would not be a conversation that we will extend to all property types, meaning that if it's tillable acres, we're not going to put a solid waste fee on it. This is, so the methodology or the philosophy of it won't change starkly in terms of who that we would apply to. But the method in which it is applied and the manner in which it is applied certainly change. Because right now how it's structured, they literally have to touch all of those parcels every year to maintenance them. Our system is much smarter than that. That does not need to happen that way. So it can be a mass import file that is maintained through all of our single family dwellings, here all our commercial industrial properties. Ideally, here is the flat fee associated with both of those things. So looking to simplify the process greatly, but we'll talk through all of that the morning of the 21st in a work session, because we will also have the Public Works budget work session that morning as well. That's the current plan, assuming the chair has no objections to that. So we'll hear from Jim. I met with him again yesterday. The subcommittees heard his budget presentation. It's very good and in good order. And he and I connected yesterday, just a couple of minutes. Stuff will be ready well in advance of that date. So we'll have that agenda item in theory on place for the public hearing. The public hearing is just statutorily required to amend an ordinance. So that's the reasoning for that one, if I didn't say it already. So work session, 8 o'clock, the 21st of July.
Public Works and Budget, and Brock will be here for the first half an hour or so of that to step through the work being done prior, and the methodology going forward. And then Public Works Budget itself after that. Sure.
One more question on that. When you say that, is the other thing that it sounds like you guys are putting this together for the public hearing and then we're gonna pass it. So we're not, are we having a work session on the? Because part of the question is how much do we try to raise with services fees versus how much we let?
Yes.
So that's a discussion among us, or is that a discussion that is gonna be presented to us? So this is how we think this should work.
That'll be a discussion as part of that conversation on the 21st, because it's intrinsically tied to the budget itself. So if whatever changes were adopted or could potentially be adopted on the 21st, directly impact how the budget is calculated and directly impact the levy as an association or byproduct. So yeah, the philosophy, so to speak, just to quickly summarize that you're talking about is, do we need to have a levy component, a special assessment component, and a fee component? Or can one of those two at least be eliminated from conversation? And what is the actual operational cost of solid waste facility? The intent when the ordinance was implemented was to cover the operational cost. It doesn't do that. So that's part of the narrative that we want to have as well. And then understanding if you make this change to the ordinance, here's the subsequent change that happens to the budget as a result. So tying all of those together in that conversation is the plan. Good question. So it's having several budget meetings with staff, this meeting and the next, or not this meeting, this week and the next, getting those preliminary numbers implemented into Munis. We should have finalization of our audit in July for 2025, should all things go as Baker Tilly deems them to go, which will be helpful to have that at least a month to month and a half in advance of when you have to make a preliminary levy decision. You know, where our previous year fully wrapped up, which we haven't been able to see the last 2 years. So that will tie into the financial forecast I typically prepare for you all by the end of July and send out to you before we launch into a series of board work sessions in August and September, leading up to the passage of a preliminary levy approval, the second meeting in September. So you'll start seeing some of those get scheduled in more earnest detail in the next couple of weeks. Library conversations going well, planning for a January 1st cutover date, just so you're aware, for staff benefits, etc. So we'll tie in those existing library staff to our open enrollment conversations as we move forward. Melissa's been doing some good work with Stacy just to get those projections put together. And that, of course, will be communicated back to the Joint Powers Board and before we get to 2027, what the budget implications are. My little dings from email on my computer because I'm hooked up with the sound system and you all keep accepting things, it looks like. So stop being proactive. No.
I'm just sitting here listening.
It's Beth's fault. That's what I heard. Open house June 30th. Just want to keep talking about this, reminding us. So Tuesday, June 30th, that off week. You have 2 additional Tuesdays in June, just how that calendar stacked up. So the last Tuesday in June in this building, 10 o'clock and 6:30 to do open house and a presentation for that judicial center. What does it look like? I get those external renderings we can take a look at. We can talk through some of those operational components as well, which Sheriff was updating you on this morning. And just generally answer questions that may be out there or maybe aren't. We'll see. No numbers of individuals are able to attend, but kind of during the day and after business hours. And schedule. I think that's all I have for today, Madam Chair, unless member says a question for me.
Go ahead. It's you.
Did bids go out on this, on the building yet?
I'm not positive on that, to check with Brian.
On the reuse.
No, for
For the-
phase one of the Judicial Center, if we
No.
have finalized bid packaging. I
no.
guess I haven't seen it, that is the case.
I'm just curious.
Certainty.
My other question,
Cause that's, I'm really certain not, cause I think that's coming up here shortly, cause he sent me when that was gonna happen. I think it's maybe next week.
Is that
The bid package open.
Pre-bid is on the 23rd.
Yes, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Right.
and my other question, did you order a shirt yet?
I didn't order you shirts. Order them shirts. Probably not.
Is that
It was yeah, that was a conversation that came up a couple of months ago. So they have a Waseca County specific shirt they can wear to the
Yes.
events and.
So we can match.
Why don't you just put it on the reflective vest, Brad?
I can do that.
We'll send you a couple of options.
Where's my heart at?
Try to get those solidified.
Sure. On the 30th, Michael, is that just like we're not sitting up here taking questions, that's a meet and greet out in the East Annex area?
I would envision it as more of the latter, yes, the more of a formal atmosphere, different stations with descriptions,
Pictures.
details, people can read on their own and available there to answer any subsequent questions that come up as a result.
We won't be up here. It's not a public. Yeah. I mean, it's conversations with the public one-to-one as opposed to formal
Did
feedback.
you have a time limit on that?
They're scheduled for an hour.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, people who are interested can come in. And then if I'm remembering correctly, right after that, we'll be putting those things up on the website too, so people can access them from the website. So the larger constituency can have easy access to them and continue to ask questions.
Yep, exactly right. And then that next day, I have that final of the 3 staff virtual touch bases that I've been holding over the lunch hour, which have been well attended at about 50 people in each of those first 2. So it's generated some good conversation awareness as a whole.
Did you mention we have Doug at Fishbowl?
Oh, no, I didn't. So as part of, I attended the public health staff meeting this previous Tuesday, and just because weird stuff comes up when you get together with people. I mean, there's nothing to do with public health necessarily, it's okay. But question from one of the staff that happens to be an avid bow fisher and do a lot of taking of invasive species, carp, rough-fish, etc. We've had a long-standing rule in Minnesota that you aren't even supposed to return carp to the water if you catch one, and the DNR guidance is just to bury it essentially. When it happens, there's a large group of individuals all over the county and all over the states, but particularly in the Janesville area and community that do a lot of bow fishing. So they will come up with, at times, literally a pickup truck full of carp or sheephead or rough fish that you can't return to the water, but also don't have a place to go with it. Some people smoke, consume them, but not in those quantities.
Not in there.
So, yeah, different kind of smoking.
Right.
So trying to avoid what we have seen pop up where we may have a pile of dead fish in a ditch somewhere or on the shoreline because there's nowhere to go with them. Yeah. So that next morning, we had a public works subcommittee, came up with a creative solution to just dig a space out in our old yard waste side on the west side of the recycling center, where people can dispose of those for free of charge. So they, public works staff turned that around very quickly. Got a picture of it yesterday, so it's kind of a layer graded pit with some fencing around it that people can come and just dump and dispose of those fish carcasses. And then staff will just throw a layer of dirt on top in the evenings. So people are asked to just check in with the office. That info's out on Facebook as well, and getting on the website as well.
Isn't that more of a, when they're spawning, or is that year round, or are they?
The springtime is
Maybe
when
they're
it's
spawning is coming up, right?
There's a season and some you can only shoot them from the land for the date, and then you can go and do it in the water.
In the water. Okay.
Yeah, it seems to be a spring and a fall thing. I've done it more in the fall from the actual water selection piece. So, okay. Yep. So appreciate public works staff turning around a quick creative solution on that and just trying to get the general community to hear and understand that that resource is available so that they don't end up in whatever is deemed most convenient in the disposition of it. Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Anything else for Michael?
I do. So go back to solid waste and the fees and our discussion from public works. Do you think there's an unequal playing or paying field out there as far as those fees?
I don't think that there's a lot of disparity, you know, and even where there is disparity, it's maybe a difference of $12.50 because that's kind of what the unit fee itself equates out to. So if this home has 2 units, this home has 3 units, there are other things that are driving that. The bigger disparity that, if you want to even look at it that way, would be from a commercial industrial standpoint, just because it's a pretty significant sliding scale with the value component. And the value component isn't really reflective of what waste is generated or disposed of out of those facilities.
But then you also have the people that are paying their portion of the fee, but not using the facility.
Correct. Yeah, and we can extend that conversation to many places across the county too. So it's been part of the narrative we've been having. Yeah, I mean, and proximity is a challenge too. Does somebody in Freedom Township get the same benefits as somebody in Woodville Township from the solid waste facility just on a proximity basis? Maybe, maybe not. But
And if this comes down to a ditch benefit, like, what's their yard?
ditch benefit or roads. I may not have the road outside my driveway, like County Road 4, fixed for 10 years, but does that mean we shouldn't do any road projects anywhere else in the county? So it's always a relevant conversation, but a tough one to universally apply.
It's just quick questions.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I do have one ask in light of what we heard at our district meeting. And what I subsequently got in a couple different places, both from AMC and from NACO. Willingness for us to send off letters to our federal partners, our federal legislators, to support a 1-year delay in the SNAP implementation. We heard particularly that any connection we could make with Congressman Finstead, because he is he chairs the committee that's in charge of SNAP, that reach out in particular would be good. I'm certainly willing to do that on my own behalf, but I think it has more credence if we do that, if we take county action on that.
Okay.
And ask that they delay the implementation, because that would help push off that extra cost to counties for a year while we figure this out, and while, quite frankly, Minnesota improves its technology to help lessen our chance of errors. Is that error rate is what's going to drive how expensive this is for our county. So.
Just in terms of timing, Madam Chair, you have almost 3 weeks before your next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there something you would like staff to prepare ahead of that? Or do you want to see the actual list for approval coming back to your next meeting?
I don't know how everybody feels about, and if it comes from the board, we really should have, board action on it. So, yeah, I think let's have something prepared so we can.
Yeah, so the only difference then being if it's the chair sending the letter and no one has issue with that or takes umbrage with that, or if you want all 5 names on there with.
How do you feel?
Well, a 1-year delay. And the reason I would be fine with 1-year delay or requesting that would be for this whole technology thing, to try to get more prepared technology wise and lessen impact. So, I'm okay with it, whether, I think it's up to you, whether you want 5 signatures on there or the board chair signature.
I guess I'm looking at your comfortability of, because obviously if I just sign it, it expedites it pretty quick, but I would not presume to do that unless, if anybody had any reservations about it. No reservations, are there?
Nope.
Okay. Then let's get one together and we'll get it off and we'll sign it.
Okay.
And let them know that Waseca County would really like a year's delay. Thank you. All right, then anything else from you, Michael?
No.
All right, then our human resources announcements are the same as we got at the beginning of the month. I think we only have one person in the 0 or 5 category. I think that was Jim, wasn't it? So no new announcements there. We got a couple of new employees here, which we are thankful for. We got a community development report in our email from Tina, and she's obviously willing to take any questions that we have for her at any point. Then we would go on to commissioner reports. One thing we heard we had a little time at the district meeting to talk about how meetings are conducted and, public comment and commissioner reports and all that. One thing that came up was commissioner reports and how they're used. Yeah, I mean, we typically run down what we've been doing. If there's questions, if there's something that any of us think is important that the whole board know, we try to make sure that we emphasize that. We're going to do commissioner reports as usual today, but I just want us to think about, and I would look for feedback from any of you. If you think there's a better way we could use commissioner reports, many boards don't do them. They don't do them. Some do. Sometimes they do them in different formats, like they just pick the highlights instead of the whole rundown. I'm open to input on how we should be doing this and what our best practices might be. So I'm just laying that out there. But today we're going to go through our usual routine because I find that helpful. And always appreciate the work that commissioners are doing away from their main meeting here. So, Commissioner Hargett, I know that you are usually right on and ready to go. Can I call on you?
You absolutely may. On Tuesday, the 2nd, we had an 8 a.m. work session and a 9:30 board and a 1:30 community health board in Waterville and a 3 p.m. library board. And I had Mike's, meeting with Michael at 4 p.m. back in his office on the same day, and then 7:30 at Woodville Township meeting. Wednesday, the 3rd, was Waseca Lakes Association at 7 a.m. On Thursday, the 4th, we were out at FCI in the Fallen Soldier presentation. That was very nice. Fair Board on Monday, the 8th, 7 p.m. Wednesday, the 10th, 8 a.m. Public Works. 5 p.m. with Waseca County Historical Society at Hodgson Hall at the Fairgrounds, and then back to the museum at 6 p.m. I did not attend the AMC meeting on Friday nor the Sunrise meeting in Dodge. Manorville, excuse me. Instead, we were at the golf tournament, which was a really nice day. That brings us to today. Now, 2 thoughts. I think just going through these, if someone here, hears something like Milbreth is going to talk about.
That's interesting.
Well, Brad's going to go about Region 9 or whatever, if there's some stuff, but at least maybe it would give someone a chance to ask that question, because it's kind of the prelude to, what did you hear about the Historical Society, or what did you hear about the fair on that? We can still do a brief overview, which I think is fine. Doesn't take too long. And one last thing, when do we get to meet Jewel from IT?
She was in here this morning.
Here. I know who she is. I don't know if the rest of you do.
Judy is on vacation this week, so we'll make sure she gets introduced.
I could have grabbed her.
Too late. Right.
Awesome.
Perfect. Also.
Also.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Christopherson.
Real good. As far as comments about the reports, I think it is probably okay to do the reports, especially on individual ones that, like, sometimes I like to talk to you guys about the SCA meeting or meetings that not all of us are there. Like CHP and library board, we were all there, so we just skipped across it, But I think it probably is a good idea to still, because I know there's been questions pop up when a report is given, where we were. The second, 3rd, I did attend that staff virtual touch base. There was probably about 50 on there. There's quite a bunch. 4th was South Country Health Alliance. Not a lot going on there. Our budget is getting better. We didn't have quite the windfall that we thought at the beginning of the year. So we budgetarily, we started out way behind, which made me nervous, but we seem to be catching up to our budget projection. We're only projecting $1 million or $1.5 million surplus this year, which sounds like a lot, but it's a percentage of a percent difference. When you're talking the dollars, or it doesn't take much of a error to chew that up. The 5th, then, personnel committee. We have a personnel committee on the 5th.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, sure. No, that was on the 11th. With the sheriff. We did that. We had one also on. Yes, with Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then the 8th was a Monday, and I had men prairie policy right away. followed by a transition team. And we're gonna do the same thing a month from now and do those two together. Then the 11th was the personnel committee with the sheriff and Dan and Doug preparing for this presentation here today. And the 12th, we hacked our way around the course. But it was a beautiful day anyway. We could have left the clubs in the bag. Just drove around.
I didn't see you on the Facebook post. Chamber had something up and pictures of some of the folks.
Oh, is that right?
It looks, did I see this right? There, it was some young bunch of guys that
All the stuff.
won.
Oh, the guys that won? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Stephen Dimmel was on
The
there.
junior high league, and then they were high school league, and now they're just.
I think that, well, at least one of them's college and he's playing college golf, so I kind of went, well, that team is stacked.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday I met with Sarah, Barry, Josh, and Kate to talk over the food licensing fees. That took quite a hike this year. I've gotten some feedback on that from constituents, and I had to talk through some things with them. And then, today, we'll have busy afternoon.
Thank you. Mr. Crossing.
Yeah. Tuesday the second, yeah. Board and CHP. Then Wednesday the third, I did tune in to Michael in his Zoom at the Justice Center. On the fourth, planning commission in the evening. For that during the board meeting today, and then on the eighth, spent some time with Land and Water, Brian Zabel and Chris Howard, issues. And 12 p.m. was the AMC. Is that a lunch? Yeah. Wednesday, let's see, the 9th was Wilton Township in the evening. The 10th was Highway in the morning. SWCD Thursday evening, and they'll be finalizing their budget here at the end of the month. And then the 12th was New Ulm, and with District 7, and I did mention a few things about that already. And that brings us to today.
Thank you, Commissioner Crossing.
Well, and tomorrow is Region 9.
Okay.
And Region 9 is doing a bus tour tomorrow. Jessica Byers working with that. And I did spend some time talking about Tom Sexton. I do believe he is going on that bus tour. And so, and then just some legislative issues that he's working on that I thought we could work together on. So some of the things that he started, so get into that later.
All right, thank you, sir. And I'm Commissioner Melbrook.
Second, we had board meeting, public health, library, sewer joint meeting, and township meeting. 6th, I had coffee with the commissioner. The 9th, I had tourism meeting. On the 11th, I met with Michael for a couple minutes. The 12th, I had a district meeting in Wall. 13th, I had coffee with the commissioner. 15th, I had joint powers meeting at the NBAC in Mankato, and a neighborhood service center meeting after that. And it brings us today's board meeting with work session, and later this afternoon we have legislation.
Yes, at 6:30. All right, on the 2nd, I was at the work session and building committee, first thing, and then we had our board meeting. We had our public health, our community health board with Lesueur, and then we also we also had our first joint powers library board meeting. And in the evening, I took myself off to Blooming Grove Township. And the discussion there was concerns about radio link going down. And, of course, the question was, what's the county going to do about it? And I said, well, we're going to deal with our own contractual.
Did they really?
Yeah, and then it was, no, we know that's not your job, but, frustration. And I said, the county has a contract with Radio Link too that we will have to be resolving. So, like, we're in the same boat. On
Just like that too.
yes,
I've had some emails back with you.
yes,
I did call Radio Link. I just talked to
Radio Link or Bevcom. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you got Radio Link, you got a phone call, nobody else is getting that.
right, but I did call Bevcom and talk to a gal and about, prioritizing these people that got cut off by Radio Link and now have Bevcom to their house, but not hooked up yet.
Sure.
Can we prioritize those people that are sitting there with nothing right now?
Yeah.
And she said they are taking the calls, they're writing it down.
Good.
And they're trying to do the best they can, so. If you do hear of somebody that's in that situation, have them call Bevcom.
They've already contacted, and actually they were gonna get hooked up, and they weren't scheduled till September. This one bit.
Oh, that's great. It's good to hear that Bevcom.
Good, so they are accountable.
Yes.
That's excellent.
Well, of course, Blooming Grove is in the northern part outside the Bevcom area. And so the best I could do is say, these are the providers that we know are here. These are providers that we know might be willing to reach out. And I also gave the pitch for the Minnesota line extension, that if folks have not signed up for the Minnesota line extension, we need to get their name on there, because that shows clusters of people that are looking for service where we don't have fiber. And that would be a reason why some of our local ISPs might be willing to expand fiber to certain areas of the county in the rural part, because we could find a cluster of houses for them to make it more viable. And they also would get some extra funding from the state for that. So on the 3rd, I had my statewide data practice group. I was in on the virtual staff touch base for part of it, and appreciated being able to listen in. I had a joint leadership team meeting up in the Twin Cities, and so I was doing that day. On the 4th, I stopped to sign some warrants, and then I took off for Lino Lakes for the Anoka Juvenile Detention Center. Once a year they have an in-person meeting. Usually they're virtual quarterly, but once a year they have an in-person. I'm the alternate there from Min Prairie, but because of the split, I thought it was important that I be there as well. Our other representative from Min Prairie didn't attend, so I was glad I was in the room. There'll be a fee increase. It's not going to be a super substantial one, and they are doing a lot of work around membership. And Patty's got some things to say about concerns that they're going to get too many members and not be able to serve everybody. But we'll keep working on that. Friday the 5th at Personnel Committee at 8 o'clock. And then I made my way up to Wadena County. I got to know Bill Stearns from the AMC board. Stearns County Commissioner, I've gotten to know him pretty well, and it was a visitation for his wife. So I hooked up with Terrell Clark from Stearns County, and we made our way to Wadena County and saw Bill. I did the lunch and learn on Monday the 8th on auditing. That was interesting. And then I had library board and went off to the city of Janesville City Council meeting. On the 9th, had a meeting about CD 30 and the new transformer installation by Janesville. had, Chris Howard was in, we talked through some of the ditch authority issues in that area and, gave him some direction on how to proceed and get some more experts in the room to help us figure out how to manage that situation. And what we should be doing. Then I went to the Taste of the Farm and, first I went to the City of Waseca Planning Commission, because I was interested in one of the items they had on, and then I went to the Taste of the Farm. Taste of the Farm was obviously very good, as it always is.
Good crowd.
We didn't get there until 6:30, and by then it was pretty quiet. But it looked like they'd served a lot of people, and
That one got by me. I opened that envelope last night.
there you go. Yeah. I did their pork, and it was a ground burger pork, and then it was barbecue. It was really good. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah. On the 11th, I sat in on the department head meeting. It was an in-person here. The first time Stacy, our library director, attended, and Tara was there as well, and Christy from Extension were all there, so it was good to have our other department heads make contact with them. Then we had a personnel committee that morning, and then SWCD that evening. And on the 12th, AMC district meeting over in New Ulm. And I was reelected as the district director, so I appreciated that support, and it's always fun to be part of that group and learn together. And this one was an interesting one. We walked through some board procedures and some things to think about that we should be thinking about to have good and productive and high functioning boards. And I think by measurable standards, this board meets those standards by and large. We do a good job and proud of the work we do together. Yesterday I was in and met with Brock to do some preparation for our Board of Appeal and Equalization tonight, so that we have that all ship shape. I had a SHAC leadership MDH support staff meeting yesterday, and I kicked off Heydays in Janesville by emceeing the style show for the Simply Saved Style Show and Profit Distribution. And once again, they gave away lots of money to the community and had delicious desserts served by Infinity Catering, and had to yuck it up with the crowd. So that's a lot of fun. And here we are today, and we got a full schedule today. Thank you all for all the work you do in all the various areas and for bringing the news back to us. Yes.
Question about tonight. The email from Brock
Yes.
did not have any information on the people that are scheduled to come.
I think it said there's no appointments, but it's possible these people could show up.
Well, there was 3 or 4 that's too.
Yesterday,
Well,
might have been Chris.
I think it was 3 with about 3 or 4 that are possibilities. But the 3, I thought maybe we would get information on the 3 that were definitely signed up.
Let me look here. No.
No, not.
No,
I
what,
did look through that. and
Yeah,
there's
what we got-
Nothing specific to the people that had signed up.
no, and we didn't get specific information about them.
Right.
And I don't know,
Will they have material tonight, John?
they will, I think what the process is, I mean, it begins with that person coming to the meeting and making the appeal, and then staff explaining the situation at that time. I think if we got a lot of information ahead of time, it would be viewed that we were making decisions before we got. The information that we were sent obviously was about the broader pieces, including I thought it was helpful that we had the rundown on all the lake properties sold because they really, that was really a big area of change. But I think that's part of the transparency piece that we're not getting a ton of prep ahead of time other than we've got the people's names and their PIDs so we can look up the property if we want. At least that's my best explanation off the top of my head. Anything else? If not, I would look for a motion to.
So moved by Crows.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause, second. No. Y'all just want to stay here?
Stay out.
All right, second by Commissioner Christopherson. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Opposed, same sign.